made good decisions mostly. I raised my children right. I kept my word and paid my debts and slept fine through the night. But there was always something I kept folded small and pressed inside a drawer. A feeling I was courteous enough to never let outside the door. I used to tell myself it wasn't real, that memory makes things into more than they were. But then I'd see your handwriting on something old and know that wasn't a lie, it was a blur. Here at last, and isn't that a thing? After all the roads that didn't lead us here, here at last, you're sitting at my table, saying the things I've waited years to hear. I'm not 20, I know what I know now. I know what matters, and I know what's real. Here at last, and I am not too old to finally let myself begin to feel. You flew in on a rainy Thursday just to see if what you felt was true. I opened up the door and everything just settled down the way things do. When something's right, you recognize it like a word you couldn't quite recall. And then it's there, and it was always obvious, and you wonder how you waited at all. You said you almost didn't call me, that you talked yourself back and forth for weeks. And I said I knew exactly what you meant. That's the kind of careful life we keep. Here at last, and isn't that a thing? After all the roads that didn't lead us here, here at last, you're sitting at my table, saying the things I've waited years to hear. We're not 20, I know what I know now. I know what matters, and I know what's real. Here at last, and I am not too old to finally let myself begin to feel. I wanna say I'm sorry for the years, but I don't think you're looking for apologies. We both lived, we both did what we could with who we were and what we couldn't see. What I wanna say is this: I am so glad you're here. I am so glad you called. I am so glad that whatever kept us careful didn't keep us gone forever after all. This is not a second chance. This is the first real one. We were never brave enough before, and look at us now. Here at last, finally here. Here at last, and I won't take it lightly. After all the years be the best thing that I've known. Here at last, finally here, you and I, here at last. The stairs creak on the third step up. They always have, I just never noticed. When you were here, there was always noise, enough to make the quiet things invisible. Now I know every sound this house makes, every pipe, every settling board. I know the way the furnace kicks at midnight, and which window lets the cold in by the door. I used to want a quieter house. I used to say I needed more peace. Funny the things you wish for when you have when they're finally released. I'm learning the house again without you, finding out what's mine and what was ours. I'm learning the house again. The silence isn't lonely now, it's just the hours. There are corners I avoided for a while, rooms I kept the door pulled nearly closed. I'm learning the house again, and slowly I'm starting to feel at home. I rearranged the living room, chair that sat beside your lamp. My daughter said she liked it, but she paused when she noticed what was different and what wasn't. I kept the lamp. I want you to know that I kept the lamp, and I kept it on, not as a memorial, just because I like it and because some things stay and some things move along. I'm not trying to make the house forget, I'm trying to make it mine again too. There's a difference between living in a museum and living in a place that loves you. Finding what's still mine and what was ours. I'm learning the house again. The silence has its own kind of grace inside the hours. There are corners that are easier now, rooms I open on a winter afternoon. I'm learning the house again, and slowly I'm making room. There's a spot beside the bedroom window where the light comes in at a certain angle, about 4 o'clock on a winter afternoon. And I stood there last that's enough. Right now, that is enough. And that is fine. The corners I avoided are just corners. The lamp is on, the rooms are all unlocked. I've learned the house again, and in the learning found a life I'd almost forgot. Mine again, quietly mine. The house and I.
My son asked me if I was alright, the way kids do when they already know. He's 27, got his mother's eyes, and I didn't want to lie, but I kept it close. I said I'm working through some things right now, the way you do when life asks something hard. He nodded like he understood that language, the one we speak in this yard, in this family. It says I see you without saying more. I was raised to hold it in a room alone. My father never showed me much of how he broke, but I've been thinking that was its own kind of lesson, and I don't want to pass that silence on. My kids are watching how I handle this, how I get up, how I keep my word. My kids are watching, and what they need to see isn't strength performed, it's strength observed. I'll have my hard nights, I won't pretend, but in the morning I'll show up right. My kids are watching, and I intend to be the kind of man worth watching in the light. My daughter drove 4 hours just to sit with me, but last November didn't need to say a word. We watched a game, I made us sandwiches, and the kindness, and that was more than I deserved. I told her she didn't have to worry. She said she wasn't worried, she was there. And I understood the difference when she said, that's not worry, that's love asking for a chair. They grow up watching me be certain. Now they're watching me not know the way. And maybe that's the better education, that their father doesn't have all the answers every day. My kids are watching how I handle this, how I get up, how I keep my word. My kids are watching, and what they need to see isn't strength performed, it's strength observed. I'll have my hard nights, I won't pretend, but in the morning I'll show up children see you face them without falling apart, without shutting down, without pretending you're made of something they're never gonna be made of. I want them to know you grieve and you still go. I want them to know you lose and you still love. I want them to see their father in the wreckage and see someone who is finding his way out. Not because it's easy, but because the finding matters, and because they're worth the finding. Every day my hard nights, I won't pretend, but the mornings they've been mine. My kids are watching, and in the end I want them proud of how I spent this time. Worth watching. I wanna be worth watching. That's enough. That's enough.
September always does this to me. The light goes golden thin, and I'm back on your front porch again, somewhere I haven't been. And 40 years are close to it, but the air still smells the same. And every year I feel it coming, that particular kind of ache without a name. I've never said it to another person, this thing I do each time September lands. How I sit beside a think about the things in your two hands. Same September, same slow turning, same light coming through the glass, same old feeling still returning, like something lovely that refuses to pass. I'm not sad, I want you to know that I've had a life I would not trade for gold. It's just that every year September finds me, and I remember being 20 years old. And then one evening in September, my daughter says there's someone on the phone. She says he says you used to know each other, and something in my chest lets go a stone. And there you are, your voice so familiar. I could have walked right home on it alone. You say I drive past that old neighborhood, and every fall, I'm never quite alone. And you say September does the same thing to you, the same light and the same front door. And you say you've never mentioned this to anyone. And I say neither, not once, not before. Same September, same slow turning, same light coming through the glass, same old feeling still returning, like something lovely that refuses to pass. We're not young, but isn't that something? That after all the roads we've each been down, the same September kept us connected, without a word, without a sound. We were so careful with each other, we were so young and so afraid of saying something that would change things, when things were already changed. All those Septembers running parallel, the same ache, the same quiet window, neither of us knowing, both of us knowing. Maybe the best things travel on their own. Maybe love doesn't need permission to stay home. Same September, same slow turning, but this year you are in the room. Same old feeling, and now I'm giving it all the space it's waited for since June. I'm not young, and neither are you, love, but September still knows how to find its way. And after all these years of running parallel, we finally get to share the same day. Same September, same September, finally the same. I stopped counting the days in March, when the counting stopped helping anything. Some people said stay busy, keep your hands full. So I learned to bake bread, which sounds like a small thing, but it isn't, not when you're doing it at 10 at night with the radio on low, just to feel like the house has a pulse again, just to feel like you're not all alone in the dark. I'm not looking for a moral to this, not asking the universe for a reason why. I'm just trying to learn the difference between moving on and moving alongside. Somewhere past the ache, there's a morning that doesn't start with weight on your chest. friend took me to a farmer's market on a Saturday in late July. I bought tomatoes and a pot of lavender, and I cried a little on the drive. Not because I was still in the worst of it, but because I wanted things again. That quiet wanting felt like something returning that I wasn't sure would ever come back in. I didn't expect to want a lavender plant or to care what grew on my windowsill. But wanting small things is how it starts, I think. How a life that went quiet starts feeling still. Somewhere past the ache, there's a morning that doesn't start with weight on your chest. Somewhere past the ache, you stop wanting yourself to get through, and you just rest. I'm not there yet, but I'm closer. I can feel the change in the air. Somewhere past the ache, I'll be standing in a life that still has a room to spare. There are things I miss that I don't say out loud, not because they're too painful anymore, but because they're mine to keep. And grief at some point stops being a crisis and starts being a kind of companion, one you stop fighting and learn to walk with, one that doesn't demand all your attention but never quite leaves the room. I used to think healing meant forgetting, or at least leaving the weight behind. Now I think it might just mean carrying it lighter, not less, just lighter. And trusting that lighter is enough, and trusting that enough is okay, and trusting that okay is a beginning. Somewhere past the ache, there's a morning, and I think I'm starting to know its name. Somewhere past the ache, when you stop wanting, something in me finally feels the same. I'm not who I was before this, and I don't think I'd go back now. Somewhere past the ache, I'll be standing, and I think I'm finding out how. I'm finding out how, slowly. I'm finding out how. We were 23 and careful, laughing in your driveway late. I was always almost ready, you were almost at the gate. We talked about everything easy, but the one real thing we'd wait. And the seasons kept on moving, and I let it get too late. I told myself it wasn't the time. I told myself you didn't feel the same. And every year I got a little better at pretending that it wasn't your name. Still the one I kept through all the years, still the one heard you moved to Portland for a while, got married, had a daughter, grew some grapes. I kept your birthday in my head like a habit, and quietly checked your name away. And then one ordinary Tuesday, the phone rang and I heard you say, I've been thinking about that summer and the things I never gave away. You said you told yourself it wasn't the time. You said you thought I didn't feel the same. And 50 years of careful living, and we both had been protecting the same flame. Still the one I kept through all the years, still the one I thought of when the night got long, still the one I never said out loud, still the one. And now you're standing here. After all this time, you're standing here. I've made a good life, I won't pretend I haven't. I've loved and been loved in all the ways that matter. But there's a room inside me, I kept the door closed on, and it had your name on it every single year. I don't know what we do now, we're not who we were then, but I know that I don't want to leave it unsaid again. So I'm saying it now, late and finally I'm saying it now. Still the one I kept through all the years, still the one I thought of when the night got long, still the one I finally said out loud, still the one. And now you're standing here, and I wouldn't trade this moment for the years we lost. No, I wouldn't trade this moment for anything at all. After all this time, after all this time, you're standing here.
Coffee maker still runs at 6, out of habit, not out of need. I make 2 cups before I catch myself and pour the second down the drain. It's been 11 months of that, small corrections every day, learning all the ways of life was built for 2 without my knowing. I don't call it grief anymore, that word felt too big, too announced. It's more like furniture rearranged in a room I still can't navigate at night. first year after is the quiet war, the one nobody sees you fighting. The first year after, you keep the score of all the small things you're rewriting. I'm not broken, I want you to know. I'm just learning what to do with the space. The first year after teaches you slow how to carry what you used to share. My daughter calls on Sunday mornings longer now than she used to stay. I think she worries I'll get too small living in this house alone this way. But I painted the back bedroom blue color she would not have chosen, and I left the windows open all night. And it wasn't an act of braveness, it was just open. I'm not pretending it's alright yet, I'm just letting alright find its way. There's a difference and I'm learning it, one ordinary, unremarkable day. The first year after is the quiet war, the one nobody sees you fighting. The first year after, you keep the score of all the small things you're rewriting. I'm not broken, I want you to know. I'm just learning what to do with the space. The first year after teaches you slow how to carry what you used to share. There are nights I set the table right and catch myself waiting for a sound. And there are nights I eat outside alone and something in it feels almost found. I'm not replacing anything, there's nothing to replace. But a life can hold two truths at once, that loss is real and so is grace. She would want me to paint the bedroom, she would want me to leave the windows wide, she would want me sitting here at peace with what's still good about being alive. And maybe that's the truest thing I know, that love doesn't end when someone goes, it just changes what it asks of you. And what it asks of me right now is to go on and go on. The first year after, I kept the score, and then I slowly put the scorecard down somewhere. I'm not broken, I want you to know. I'm becoming what this life still needs. The first year after teaches you slow, and then you just go on, and you go on, and you go on, and you go on. One more day, and then one more. That's all it takes.
sweater on the highest closet shelf. When his old brown hat came tumbling straight down and laid itself right there in my open hands, like it had somewhere to be. And I stood there in the hallway, trying hard to simply breathe. The wool was worn along the brim, just where his fingers used to hold. A small thing, nothing more than that, but it undid me, truth be told. Under the oak tree in September, the light came through like liquid gold. He held my hand and asked forever, and I said yes before he'd finished, with the words still in the air. I can feel that afternoon like it's waiting right here, in the hat upon the shelf, in the way I loved him well. We wore those years like easy clothes, not perfect but our own. Some seasons were the kind of cold that settles in the bone, but mostly I remember warmth, his laugh across the room, the way he tipped that tired hat whenever I walked through. Now the house holds all its quiet well, the rooms have learned to breathe alone. But someday something shifts the air, and I remember what I've known. Under the oak tree in September, the light came through like a liquid gold. He held my hand and asked forever, and I said yes before he'd finished, with the words still in the air. I can feel that afternoon like it's waiting right here, in the hat upon the shelf, in the way I loved him well. I'm not looking for a reason to fall apart today. I've made my peace, or close enough most days. I'm okay. But love doesn't ask your permission when it rises up like this. So I let it come and hold it, the way I once held him. And I set the hat back gently, back up where it stays, a quiet kind of keeping of all our gentle days. Under the oak tree in September, the light came through like liquid gold. He held my hand and asked forever, and I said yes before he'd finished, with the words still in the air. I can feel that afternoon like remember being sensible, choosing the safe road home, telling myself it was practical to leave some things alone. You were my oldest, closest friend. We'd known each other long, and I talked myself right out of it by the time I knew something was wrong. They say you always know, and maybe that is true, but knowing and admitting are two very different moves. I took the long way back to you. All the years between us, I went around. I took the long way back to you, and somehow I still found what I'd been circling all my life, but I'd been careful not to name. I took the long way back to you, and here I am, just the same. We're having coffee in November. You're telling me about your years. I'm watching how you hold your cup, and I'm smiling through what should be tears. You say I haven't changed a bit. I say that's very kind of you. And somewhere underneath that small talk, we both know something's coming through. You reach across and touch my hand just for a second, nothing more. And 60 years of careful living just walks right out the door. I took the long way back to you. All the years between us, I went around. I took the long way back to you, and somehow I still found what I've been circling all my life, what I've been careful not to name. I took the long way back to you, and here I am, just the same. I used to wonder if I wasted something, if all those years were just a kind of loss. But sitting here with you this afternoon, I think I understand the cost. It wasn't waste, it was the way we got here. It was the road that made us who we are. And maybe this is worth the long way round. Maybe this is worth the scar. I'm not young anymore, and neither are you. And isn't it something that it still feels like this? Like the first time you know something real, and you're too smart to look away. I took the long way back to you, and every mile of it was worth the road. I took the long way back to you, ended it on a Tuesday in November, sitting at the kitchen table with our coffee. No shouting, no betrayal, no one villain, just two people who had slowly come unknotted. You said you thought we'd had a good long run. I said I thought so too, and both of us meant it. We sat there for an hour after neither moving, like we were waiting for permission to get up and go. There's a particular kind of grief for things that weren't broken, for love that ends not with a crash but with a door closing softly, respectfully, completely, and leaving you to wonder what you're grieving for. We had one last good year before we knew it was the last one. Walked our street in autumn like we had 1,000 times. We had one last good morning, one last long October, and I keep going back to it as if I could rewind. We had one last good year and we were good in it. I think that's what I miss the most, not the love but the ease. We had one last good year before it all made sense, and I'd give a lot to be that unknowing again. I planted things this spring you would have liked to see, a kitchen garden, something I put off for years. I thought about you when the first green came up, not with longing, something quieter than tears. I think about the version of us that might have stayed if we'd been younger or different or more lucky. I don't think it would have been happier exactly, just longer, which sometimes feels like the same thing. There's a particular grace in endings that have no blame, and choosing to release what you also still love. I know that intellectually I've known it for years now. I just feel it differently on the second glass of wine. We had one last good year before we knew it was the last one. Walked our street in autumn like we had 1,000 times. We had one last good morning, one last long October, and I keep going back to it as if I could rewind. We had one last good year and we were good in it. I think that's what I miss the most, not the love but the ease. We had one last good year before it all made sense, and I'd give a lot to be that unknowing again. I don't want you back, I want that season back, the one where we were still something to each other before we said the true thing out loud, and the true thing changed everything. There was a Tuesday in October when nothing had been decided yet. The leaves were doing what leaves do, and we were just two people walking home, still calling it home. I wanna stand in that Tuesday for one more hour, just one more. We had one last good year. I'm glad it was with you. I'm glad it was with you. I'm glad it was with you. Drive me home the long way round, never in a hurry to arrive. Talking about nothing that important, just finding reasons to stay alive. In the same car, in the same dark, with the radio turned low. And I could feel you wanting something, but you never let it show. Used to think that's just how you were, careful, quiet, a man of half a word. But I know now what I didn't know then. There was so much you were saving to be heard. What you never said, I heard it anyway. In the way you'd linger at my door, like it mattered, like you wanted more. What you never said, I kept it all these years. Every unsaid word, every held back prayer. What you never said still lives inside me. I'm glad it's there. We went our separate ways so politely, like two people raised too well to fight for what we wanted most and couldn't say in the small hours of a summer night. I built a life with someone steady, and I loved him, and it wasn't wrong. But I always kept a little corner where your silence was a kind of song. And then we're old and sitting at a table, and you're reaching for the words you swallowed young. And I find I'm reaching back to meet you with everything I kept beneath my tongue. What you never said, I heard it anyway. In the way you'd linger at my door, in the way you'd ask me how I'm sleeping, like it mattered, like you wanted more. What you never said, I kept it all these years. Every unsaid word, every held back prayer. What you never said still lives inside me, and I'm glad it does. I'm glad it's there. You said you were afraid I'd turn away, that I was too bright a thing to ask to stay. And I laughed a little, because all that time I was afraid of the same exact thing. Isn't that something? We were protecting each other from the very thing we both needed most. All those careful years, all that quiet distance, just two people keeping the same secret safe. was worth the wait. Every single hour, I heard it all along. I heard you all along. My friend says I seem different lately. She means it as a compliment, I think. She says there's something lighter in my face, like I've put something down I used to drink. I told her I've been sitting with myself more than I ever used to let me do. I told her that the hardest year of my life turned out to also be the one where I grew. I don't want to make it sound like a lesson, like loss is something life sends to improve you. But I won't pretend I'm the same person that I was before the losing came through. Whatever comes next, I'm gonna meet it, not the way I used to, armored and on guard. Whatever comes next, I'm gonna greet it, even if it costs me, even if it's hard. I've been on the other side of a long year. I know what I can carry, what I can't. Whatever comes next, and I mean this, I'm ready in a way I never was before. I signed up for a pottery class in January, which sounds like a very small life change. But I drove myself there, walked into a room full of strangers, sat down and stayed. I made a bowl that looks like something a child left out in the rain, but I made it with my hands in the middle of winter. And I drove home proud in a way I can't explain. Maybe small things are the whole thing. Maybe that's what I missed when I was busy being practical and useful and composed, and a little too afraid to be a beginner. Whatever comes next, I'm gonna meet it, not the way I used to, careful and restrained. Whatever comes next, I'm gonna greet it with both hands open, nothing to be gained but the living of it, the action will be there. I've had a year that stripped a lot of weight. Whatever comes next, and I mean this, I'm walking through the door and I can't wait. I thought about this more than I'll admit. What you do with life after the long grief, how you honor what you lost and still move forward, how those two things live together without thieving from each other. And I think I've found my answer, or the beginning of one. You go on fully, not halfway, not carefully, out of guilt, not with one foot still in the room where the hard thing happened. You go on with everything you have left, which turns out to be more than you thought, which turns out to be enough, which turns out to be most days more than enough. I'm not who I was and she deserves a life. She deserves whatever comes next. Whatever comes next, I'm gonna meet. Whatever comes next, I'm gonna meet it with everything this year taught me to bring. Whatever comes next, I'm gonna greet it. Let it be hard, let it be an ordinary thing. I've been on the other side of a long year. I've learned what I can carry, what I can choose. Whatever comes next, and I mean every word. I've got nothing left to lose that I can't lose, and that is freedom.